Can you see me? G'day and welcome. Of course, this is just more like, this is the news, this is what we've got going on. Again, work, reporting and assessment season, so not a whole lot of time. But far too many projects, and I'll show you what we're up to in this one. We'll talk about a bit on the XC, how I'm going to finish that off. In fact, the XC and the two bikes I want to finish this year. It's been going on too long. It's never taken me as long to restore a car than it has the XC. I painted that car, let me think, I painted it in 2016. So that's 7 years ago. It's not good enough. I haven't finished it. So this year is the XC's year, as the weather heats up. And it also gets the guards out of the, well, we've got one there, but there's one in the study. In my bedroom, there's two Plymouth guards. And so I need to put that together too, and that's a must as well. So this year's XC, Plymouth back to how it was, and there's some news with that too. And the two motorcycles, the T250 and CB350F. I want those two cars and two bikes done this year because I've got to do my brother's XR8. I've done a bit of work on that. Tidied up some wiring on it, changed all the globes and fixed up this and that on it. And also I've got to do a rust repair in the top. So we'll just see how that goes. But it just means there's so much to do, so little time. What else is there? Oh, there was something else I wanted to say. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, look, I hope you enjoy. Righto, let's look at our big block project. A couple of things have happened. I got the guys at work to make a dash fascia. This is 2 mil steel. We had a laser cutter, flatbed sort of thing. I think the laser diode kept blowing out, and they've got a plasma one now, which doesn't quite do it as tightly, but it's still very smooth in there. There are a few jagged bits on the back of it, so what we'll do there is flappy disc that off, edge prime it and stick a car colour on there, and it'll sit in a box. Now, I was dumb when I did this, because I did it in about 5 minutes with this other guy who knows the CAD program, and I stuck the screw holes right on the corners, which normally I would make a mitered box so you don't see end grain. And I can't do that, it'll just open it up. So I might just, we got some scraps of Vic Ash, some short ones, just little scraps about that big, and I can make a box. I might even dovetail it, that always looks good. We'll make this nice, and we'll stick some gauges in. Now it doesn't matter with the gauges, I've just bought the cheapest, filthiest gauges. So what have we got? Oil pressure there, voltmeter, which who cares, and temperature in Fahrenheit. So that's all good, because you buy thermostats normally in Fahrenheit for American engines. And we've got a small tack, which I couldn't get in white, I've got a black one. Now, these things combined were like 35 bucks, and they come in this filthy cheap packaging with one of those. And what surprises me about these is people still ask about 35 bucks for those things, which is crazy. So I don't really give a toss about those. They will, as long as I read a value, you know, I don't think they're going to be accurate. They're going to set the world on fire. If they work once or twice, fine. Of course, in that $35 bill for those, including the fascia, you've got the center units as well. So you can imagine the quality of this stuff isn't that great. You pay probably 70 or 80 bucks or something just for a genuine Ford center. So who knows? Also managed to grab these headers, or manifolds if you like, from the wonderful Grant Wickham. They're through a friend of his that has lots of FE type stuff. He thought my engine was FT, I think, because it has the vertical ports, the vertical studs on each one. I don't tend to agree with that, because I've had a couple of FEs before that had all of these. Having said that though, I did pick them up because they were very cheap, and I'll be able to use them in the future. So in the meantime, to make my predicament disappear, I bought these shorty headers. Here and here. This one's a bit different in that it exits at the rear. Now that is no good for a Falcon. Yeah, it's going to be right into the firewall. I don't think there'll be enough room. I've got on the XW, I've got a Windsor 302 one on the right hand side, which I'm going to get rid of too, and it's just got a huge sort of right angle bend in it. These were cheap, they're polished stainless, look pretty good, and they've got all the right spacing. They were great, they sort of came, they were pretty cheap, I think they were 350 bucks or something. They come with flanges, a pair of those, they come with a packet of hardware, which I can't find at the moment. So all your bolts, your cylinder head bolts, and also your flange bolts, flange gaskets, and manifold gaskets, or header gaskets as well, all for that price. So, you know, it'll look good on the stand, obviously, it's garage art, but also it'll sort of eliminate that problem we've got. So we've got that ready to go as well. Yeah, these bolts. We're, I think, 2 or 4 short. I think there's 16. Hang on, how many are here? 2, 4. Right, so we need 16. I think they gave us 12 of those, but I've still got that from years and years ago, which is 3/8 the course, and they'll do fine. They'll work for those. So I'm just going to use those. They're stainless for the flanges. These ones here are zinced. The header ones are zinced, so it'll just have the stainless here, and of course on the flanges as well. The ones going into the head, of course, are going to use anti-seize on them because different metals, and I'll show you why different metals annoy me, because I've got to take the cylinder head off one of those Mercs, and I'll show you that in a minute. That's about it for this big block. I think I have everything I need to finish it, I think. So exhaust is all sorted. Oh, I just need a bit of steel to make up that front bit for the radiator to stick onto, to sit on, and I reckon we're good. I reckon we can start it up then. I'm tossing about with this now. This is a 390. I'm absolutely sure it's a 390. I'm tempted to use it in the XA. I did have this epiphany. I thought it was in the first video of the XC, where I wanted to make a powder blue mock XA Interceptor with the 390 Police Interceptor engine. Now, my brother's got a 428 crank, which will bring the capacity up, but you can also get a scat crank that has a 4-inch stroke, and that'll bring it up to 431 on 30 thousandths over. I don't know if that's stock or it's over. It looks like it might be a stock bore. So naturally we've got a damaged piston in there, so we would be boring it. And I've got all the 351, including the heads anyway, so I'm sort of tempted to stay with that, but I don't know. I just think this would be great. It's got a C6 on the back of it. It'd be a torque monster. These are actually great engines to drive. They're really great engines to drive around in, or drive around with. So I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure yet, but I do want to get it going first, just to see where we're at. Of course, in addition, we have Jason Hill's Machine 351 engine block, Cleveland. We've also got his wiring looms, which these looms are incredibly good. Now, you can buy new looms through various suppliers, and of course they're new and they're great and all the rest of it. There is nothing wrong with this. All the connectors are pliable. There's no heat damage to any of it. There's no, even on the headlights, that's on a different part of the loom. The headlight plugs, I want to show you those, just a moment. Here's your headlight loom. Oh, your engine bay loom, sorry. All plugs are brilliant. They're inside the cabin, of course. There's not even any melting on here. They are in very, very, very good condition. Wiring's not brittle or anything. It's really good. I think it'd be a bit of a crime not to use this. Now, the only thing with these that I don't like is this fuse box. Ceramic fuses with external fuse wire on them. They're not known for brilliant reliability. There's a circuit breaker here. Now, what I've done, what Jason wants to do, is use a ceramic blade, a blade fuse type arrangement. I've ordered a couple of them, one for my car and one for Jason's, with spade terminals on them, so we can just unhook these and use them in that capacity. Now, this has got what, hang on, 3, 4, 8 circuits. So I bought an 8 circuit blade fuse one, and there's a circuit breaker up here. This is great, May 1973. It's absolutely brilliant. So I'll run a circuit breaker as well as blade fuses. So it's all the same specification, of course. We'll also keep all these labels. Now, interestingly with Ford, which I didn't know, is these are made in Taiwan. So that'll all stay there. I'll rewrap it with fabric tape. But what I love about this is no one's cut a single wire. Even the feed wire for the radio has not been meddled with. There are certain things I'll do. The wiring that went over the engine for things like oil pressure sensors and temperature senders, I'll take those out and I'll replace them, as well as the resistor wire that goes to the coil. I think it's important to ditch that, but the rest of this, that'd be absolutely stupid not to use it. This engine, ooh, yeah, we don't want that in there. I haven't washed it yet. This has been bored, and he's using 302 rods. All the footage from the engine video I'm going to give to Jason for his channel. I've already got 2 351 builds, I think, on mine, a Windsor and a Cleveland. I did them some time ago, and I think some things have changed with it. I'm not really sure. But he's going to use this block. I'm going to give him the footage for it. So it came with a whole raft of goodies for him, including Edelbrock alloy heads, if you remember. I used Speedworks in Ringwood, Tony from Speedworks, to do all the machine work. And I took his 302 heads there and said, start on these. And then he turned around and bought, some Edelbrock Performer heads, some alloy heads. So we're using those on this build, and we're using the Cleveland ones on the 302 ones on my Cleveland. Also a whole bunch of other stuff, a whole bunch of other goodies are going on this. Some stainless bolts, oil pumps, balances, the balance and, pistons. There's a carburetor, a really nice carburetor. The only thing he got was Felpro gaskets. I don't like those, for reasons I showed you on the Plymouth in the other video, where they get a bit salt and peppery. I think you have to re-torque them, and then they're all right. They're not like a mono-torque or a Victor Reigns, where they have that sort of silicon, I don't know what it is, seal that's sort of bonded in to the gasket surface around the oil and water galleries and that sort of stuff. So we might have to redo that. This isn't going to be a race car, but it's going to make some pretty good power depending on the camshaft he's got, because it will potentially flow quite well. This blasted Merc, I want to show you. Oh, hang on, the thing's all crooked. I want to show you something with this. I'm not very happy with it. Mechanically very good, this car, and I got the right water pump for it, but I haven't put it on yet. And the reason for that is because I took the thermostat housing off and it started to gall. These are hardened bolts. There's only 2 of them that holds the thermostat housing on. Of course, you've got your radiator, top radiator hose coming off that. Now, one of them broke. I was going backward and forward, and of course one of them broke, which is this one, which is clearly my fault, but what do you do? Now, it's broken down here, just a moment. There it is there. There's a bit of it protruding. Now, I've tried to weld 3 5/16 bolts. It's not, it's metric, it's M1.25, I think. Shoehorned a 5/16 on, welded it on, it just came off. It didn't take. And the reason is I can't get too much heat into it because it's an alloy head. So this is a massive pain. I've got to take the cylinder head off. It's the only way I can think of getting it off. A center punch on there it just scratches it. It doesn't do anything else. Of course, I don't want to heat that up cherry red and then start drilling it, because that'll damage the housing as well. I've even tried cobalt drill bits. It just sits there and skates around. So cylinder head's got to come off. Didn't want to do it, but that's the reality of it. So once that's off, I'll get an engineer. There's a kid at school, his dad's an engineer, and I'll get him to get it out and re-tap it or whatever he needs to do. You might even have to put an insert depending on how messy it gets. But then I'm going to sell the car because I don't want it. I didn't want it anyway. This was for Charlie until we found that hardtop one. So this is it just is something I really didn't want to happen. So that's a bit of bad news. Having said that, while I've got it off, I might free up the air pump down there that's seized, because you need that to rotate at least to get a roadworthy. So I'll see what time I've got, but with the weather being winter and so forth, it's not very pleasant standing out here anyway. White Starley, of course, this is Graham Newbury's car. I gave it to him. I haven't done a damn thing on it. If you remember, we painted the guards, and both front guards and the bumper. I changed the bumper and welded in a new section of radiator support panel, and you can see that's slightly different colour, and I welded it somewhere around there. I haven't done anything on this. I still have to wet sand the bonnet and put the badge on and the wiper blades, and I promised him I would do a cam belt and an oil and filter change, and then he can take it. Now, I'm thinking about this now because the XA is going into blasting at the end of this month. It was supposed to be end of last month, but the guy didn't have time. Or at least that's what we were planning, end of May, but end of June, that car goes in for blasting. About a fortnight or so, we'll get it back, and then it'll have to come here. So that has to go, that has to go. The car I haven't touched. Right, I've got all the gaskets, everything to finish this Plymouth off. Put all the front clip back on, get it back into one piece. Jason has said he will trim it. So he's got a few jobs to do, including a hard top. So once that's done, this will go and live with him for a little while he trims it up. That's his wiring loom there, of course. I haven't done the heads on this. I'm taking them off because, as you know, see that powdery crap under there? Thank you, Felpro. Whoever put them on didn't retorque them. I've got another gasket kit for it here, so it's just a matter of time. I think I stopped doing this because I hurt my back, but my back's fine now, so I can get into that. That gives you an idea what that fabric tape looks like. It's nice. So I used it on the XC, I used it on Jason's car, and Bob's your uncle. What else? There was something else. Oh yeah, the bikes. No, the XC. Oh, I got too much work, but I kind of enjoy it. So I've got both guards. Just got to finesse a little bit on the guards. Graham's done all the hard work, including that horrible styline, which is very difficult to get correctly, or get looking correctly. And we can finish that. The steering wheel is... Where is the steering wheel? Steering wheel's on the floor over there, is it? I don't know what to do with the steering wheel. It's not on the car. Hang on, where's the bloody steering wheel? Just a moment. Oh, there it is. Duh. Gosh, idiot. Moron. God, that was hard to get out. I have to adjust that door. Right. Oh. Did I show you this? I don't even know if I showed you this. Fairmont GXL steering wheel. Thank you, Liam Scanlon. We now have a leather wrapped steering wheel with this bit here from Liam. He donated that, and a few switches and bits and pieces like that. So that goes on the car. The guards go on. I've got the paint. I've got everything to finish this. I just haven't sorted out that power window issue on the right hand side. So the rear glass goes down off the switch but won't come up. Yet when you get the wires, what do you call it? The wires and reverse the polarity, up and down she goes. So there's a problem with that. I've tried another rear switch to no avail. And I messed around with the driver's switch, but couldn't see anything wrong with it. So I don't really know what that problem is. Having said that, we will successfully do it. Look at how dirty this is. I'm ashamed. I'm just ashamed at my filthy XC. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We can clean it. Motorbikes, of course. Cobwebs on our motorbikes. This has got all new front brakes in it. And, oh, just feels so nice. All good. This bike is finished. The only thing... Oh, no, it's not. All I need to do with this bike is change the regulator. On the other side, the wiring. Look at it in the reflection of the Plymouth. Can you see it? The regulator, rectifier. These don't have a regulator. They've got a rectifier. I'm putting a regulator on it because these rely on the lead acid battery to cop about 16 volts or something. Not a very good solution, but that's why they dry batteries out. So I'm going to put a regulator on it, so it's only getting about 14.5, and this thing can be ridden, I think. I'm damn sure. Yes, it can be ridden. It's finished. The 354, we've got the proper brake rod. The guy that had this originally did it as a cafe racer, and I have restored it and left it dirty. So, oh, that reminds me, does the petrol smell? The petrol will probably smell by now. Just a second. Nup, she smells like petrol. Yummy. Hang on. I need two hands. Right, so this one's done, albeit dirty. I need to put a cover on it. And I've got the proper brake rod for that. I need to get a chain. No, I've got the chain. I need to get front and rear sprockets for it, and then I'll put that brake thing on and brake linings for the rear, and then this is finished. Finito. So, the bikes are done. The 750, on the other hand, looking absolutely beautiful. Remember, Scott from Cold War donated this tank, or Gary did, his friend. Scott painted that probably 10 or 12, 15 years ago or something. This bike's looking good. We've got some new headers on it and a new seat on it, but I haven't got the rest of the exhaust, and I haven't also done the rear brakes or sprockets or anything. And after that, this will be finished as well. PJ Holden, we've done Zippo on. This is an engine stand I started to make. It's nice and wheelie, and it makes the grey motor, what do you call it? Mobile. All of our block machining's done. We've got all the new pistons. We've got the new camshaft. Haven't got the cylinder head done. That other block is from Craig Anderson, a friend of mine, so I've got to return that to him. I just need to get the cylinder head done and the crank ground, and that engine can go together too. No, it can't, because I need a timing set and a gasket set. The 350 Special was a cycle that I started, but of course haven't finished. And that can go on the back burner. I'm not worried about that. I have a lovely police interceptor, or not interceptor, what is it called? Police bike Speedo, sort of morphed into the headlight, which I like that look. So that's all powder coated. It looks really good. The engine is absolutely gorgeous inside. That cylinder head does have a few busted fins, so I'll send it off to an engineer. There's one up in Seville, I think, and he can do that, or I'll ask him to do it. And I think that's about it. I still haven't taken the front end off that EJ. That front end will go on the marketplace because it's a bit rusty and I don't want it. Plus it takes too much room. And of course I've got all the new front end and everything to go on this car, but I've only just scratched the surface where the welding's concerned. We have the guards for the XA. I'm not sure if I've shown you these. Now this was from the chap I bought the big block engine from. They do need a little bit of work, but not terribly much. Someone's done a GT type paint job on that, but they haven't got that sort of air intake feature they have there. I wanted stock ones. You can pay $1,000 each for repro ones. These are $1,000 a pair. So I've got that one there. And this one here, which is ZF Fairlane, which is the same. So that's good. Very, very, very small amount of rust. Just a very minor patch, I think, on that one. Just there. Behind it looks pretty good. So it's even got the square antenna base in it too. Although I might delete that. So I've got the guard. So every panel I've got for the XA now. I've got everything I need. And finally we've got these little bits of flashing that I've made. Or I had made. I would have made them, but I couldn't get into the centre to do it. So we've got all those so that we can wall this in. Right? We'll wall this in with laser light and then overlap it off the edge. I don't think you're allowed to do that, but it'll make it waterproof. And then I can move this over. Actually, the Plymouth will go here. It'll be nice and dry, and it'll make a bit of room over there because I've already filled it up. Right, Plymouth news. I've taken the cylinder head off to have a bit of a look. I measured this with a plastic rod. It'd been, what was that? A 318, so about 84 millimeters in stroke. I'm actually wrong. It is a 301, right? But it's coming up at 82.2 millimeters. And the reason for that is because someone, and I thought this guy was singing this guy's tune as being really, really good engine reconditioner, but he's not. We got 40 over. I thought they were 20s, but they're not. They're 40s. Look at that. That's top dead center. There's about bit over 2 millimeters, maybe even close to 2.5 millimeters. Now that's going to do nothing for compression. So the compression is going to be rubbish in this. No good for making power at all. So there's a couple of things with this. We can either pull the engine down and put the right pistons in, which we're not going to do. You can't deck it very far. If you look in that jacket there, there's not an awful lot of meat on the top of the deck. So look, I don't know what this business is. Look at this. Scholastic City again. Jesus. I can't stand that stuff. So yeah, I'm a bit miffed about that. You know, it's 301, 318, doesn't mean it's 40 over, so it's another millimetre. It'll probably give it a few extra cubes, so it's probably 308 or something like that. I don't know. Pardon me, I haven't worked it out. But yeah, that's a little bit of a pity. The fact that it's so, you know, you should have decked the block, or actually no, you can't. As I said, I would have used custom pistons or older style pistons for that. So that's a bit of a shame. I'm just going to have to clean those bores out. There's bits and pieces of snot in there. I remember seeing Dodgy Brothers on the Comedy Company. It was about these two guys that used to sell absolutely useless stuff, including 3.5-inch hose bits, because they were dodgy. This is my homemade CCing device. I use it all the time, actually. Although my 50mm syringes had it. I managed to get this 25. Go into a chemist and ask for a syringe. They look at you with long hair and they think you're a drug addict. So very hard to get one. I'm just using this valve saver, very thin oil, and I'll be sticking it in here. I want to know what the compression is going to be, because I reckon Scott's T is going to have higher compression than this thing. This thing's sliding off actually when I drilled a hole, so it sits on that locator there. Rightio, whoops, let's go. I'm tipping this thing. Maybe I'm just crying wolf. Maybe it's not as bad as what I thought. Hang on. I haven't moved up to the top properly. Hang on a minute. Can I do a bit of dodgy stuff and get it up like that? I need to get it into that relief. Okay, so we're about a mil short. Let's have a look. There's 25 in there. I don't want to dazzle you too much. And we've got a little bubble at the top. Is that focusing? I think I need a new camera too. This is pretty rubbish. So, I don't know, give or take, we're about a mil out. I'm going to call it 26 mil. I can put a bit more in, but not going to. 26 mils of oil fits there at top dead center. And even then, I'm not using a dial indicator. Normally using a stop for it. It's just a rough measurement. So 25 plus that little tiny bit there. Try and recover this crap before it goes everywhere. Have I got it? Oh, we're getting there. We're not going to make too much mess. Maybe I can move it down a bit like this. Where's the hole? That's what she said. Hang on a second. Oh, success. Beautiful. Of course, there's this 352 block. This is, I thought it might even be 332. Original bore by the look of it, in measuring it, and also it's the early one, so I've only got the 2 holes. So that could be a nice bit of something too. Bit of garage art or whatever. It does have a crank in it, but it's got itself a bit wet. I paid virtually nothing for that, with a couple of intake manifolds as well. So that might get moved on. Don't know. I'm not interested. I know it looks like I've collected a whole lot of junk in this one, but I've actually thrown a whole lot of things out. I've sold 3 sets of wheels, and that frees up a lot of space too. So there's this as well. But I don't think you'll see this again, unless I find a use for it, but I don't think I will. Right, well, I've decided to do the wrong thing. I've taken the head off this side, replaced the gasket, put it back on, without changing the pistons, and I should change the pistons. I did a bit of research, and this is the same bore as a 318. I thought this was a 318, it wasn't. So it's the same bore. You can get them 40 over, which is what this has got. There's 2 pin heights. One is, I think, about 1/8 of an inch apart, and we haven't got 1/8 of an inch of room at the top of the piston. It's a lot less than that. It's about 100 thousandths. So 100 thousandths is, give or take, 2.5 millimeters. 1/8 of an inch is 3.2. So getting new pistons with the right compression height means waiting for them to come XUS. I think there's some here, I'm not sure. And then getting them fly cut, it just turns into a nightmare. So it is a doable thing. I'm doing the wrong thing. If it was a Fury, I would absolutely do it. If it was, but this is a cruiser, it's not a performance one. If it was a 4-cylinder or a small 6 or something, I think that compression would make a hell of a difference. I think this is probably going to cost me about 20 odd horsepower. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I'm hoping it's not that big of a deal. I think with the tiny carburetor that sits on top of this, we've still got some airspeed happening. I'm thinking, it might be alright. I'll do a compression test after this. What I've done anyway, these are polyspherical heads, so you can push rods come in on 2 different angles to keep your valves canted. I've backed these off 3.5 turns on every one, and that way we can get these out. Some of these won't come out if you don't withdraw them first. I'll sit in the head, you can't just pull them through. So you're sort of pulling the rockers to the side to withdraw them. Those rockers that are down, I'll just turn the engine, I'll rotate the engine a little bit. Hang on, it's hard to get out while I'm talking. And we should be good. Yeah, that one's down. That one's not, I can get that one out. Well, it might be a bit down, maybe it's this one I've got to get out. Nope. I've got to turn the engine a bit. What about this one? Yeah, I can get that one. This is the red one. Is it that one? No, someone painted one of them. Oh, hang on a sec. So yeah, it's a disappointment. I thought this engine would be rebuilt by somebody who really knew what they were doing, but then as soon as I started seeing 40 cubic metres of Celastic, I started thinking to myself, well, maybe it wasn't that good. I don't know. Oil. Ooh, good thing about Velcro is they don't stick. The very criticism I've got with them is handy when you have to pull an engine apart because it's very easy to clean up after it. It's a beautiful engine, just a shame. So I don't know. He hasn't got Celastic on this side. The other side, I pulled a great big long worm of Celastic like that out. It's a shame, but you know, now with the engine jacked up, I can take the sump off, take a piston out. I just don't have time. There's too many projects. I got God knows how many cars in bits. I've got to finish that thing. So I want to put my energy into that. This will be fine. It'll be a few horsepower down. Jason's going to do the interior. We'll get it on the road sooner or later, and if I don't like it, then I'll do something about it then. But I'm tipping, because I haven't driven it before, I'm not going to know any different. So we'll clean all this up. That's where I was throwing things in. Oh, that's the camera. Well, it doesn't really look like there's anything majorly wrong with it. There was just a sweat of coolant. Like, yeah, just around there. See around there? Yeah, there was something. It looks like it's been coming out of there. That looks like a sealer. I don't like them because I've seen this actually several times. Once on a car I had, which was a Clevo, and once on another one, and this is the third that I can remember. But there's no bonding agent anywhere, so they're probably designed as a performance gasket for people who do regular teardowns, drag races, this sort of thing. I don't actually know what people with drag cars use in terms of gasket, but for road use, I think they're awful. I just don't like them. So as soon as I see him, I think, here we go. I call him Jason XW. Jason Hill got a set for his the 351 I'm building. I'm not going to put them on. I told him that. I said I'm not using those. Well, the gaskets are fine. It's just the head gaskets. That's just all soot. This thing's only been started and moved around, so it never had the rings bedded in or anything. And I'm not going to rebuild the thing. God, I can't be bothered. Anyway, look, I think the best thing, we'll give it a bit of a scotchy and some thinners. Get it wispy or squeaky clean. Do the same on the deck. And pop it back together. Right, head gasket top tip. Firstly, clean it all up. I always use thinner on a clean rag. This is the head gasket replacement. Now, a couple of things with this. This does not have the bonded sealing agent around where the water and oil goes. I would be inclined to retorque this gasket. It's not like a mono torque. Victorines and all these sorts of ones also all have these sort of, you'll see them like a silicon sort of, I don't know what it is, it's some sort of sealer that sort of, as the engine heats up, it melts in. The other thing is, if it's not symmetrical, pay careful attention. On the Fords, there's two coolant holes. There's one in but not the other, so you have to make it, pardon me, so that those two coolant holes are at the back, because the water pump then pushes the coolant down toward the back of the block and then brings it back forward through the heads. Whereas if you get it the wrong way, it's just going to come out of the pump and then straight up here without getting down the back. So you've got to be careful of that. Not a bad idea, just place them both ways. Just make sure every hole's covered. If they're not marked front and top and all this sort of stuff, but this one is, this one isn't. So there you go. So I look at this. This has got locating dowels here, and that one's not punched there. So I'm tipping it goes this way. That's where it's punched. And okay, there was a hole in the other one there. We've got oil return, oil feed, we've got all sorts of little bits and pieces, and it's got another dowel there. It's got another locating dowel there. So this gasket, pardon me, goes this way. Interestingly, those ports going up into the heads are very small. Here and here. I'm talking about these guys. where my finger is. And you can see, yeah, they're restricted in a sense. That'll be to create flow in other areas, I would think. I think we're good. So Plymouth say 3 increments to 85 foot-pound on the head bolts. So I've done 35. This is 65. Let me just go around. There's only 10 of them. Try not to get seasick, you're on a bit of warped cardboard. I'm just looking for lifters that are down. That one is. No, it's this one. Yeah, that one. And I'm just doing ballpark. So that's a half. 1, 2, 3. And I'll redo the valve clearances before I put the new gaskets on. We've got another one there. What's this one? Is it there? Yeah, it's this one. Different from a cleaver, we'll give it that. So it's a half. Really the end I was looking for the Plymouth. Doesn't matter though. It'll have a bit less power, as I said. I think it'll be alright with the size engine it is. But if it's not, we'll revisit it later. I'll put those gaskets in. The rock cover gaskets aren't there yet. I've got all glove dust on me. I'll adjust the tablets and put them in, put the intake manifold on, and I'll dress the engine, start him up, give you a listen, see what you think. Oh, I've got to show you something. Dashboard for the big block. This was dirt cheap to make. I think I mentioned before in the video, $35 for those 3, including sender, so they're going to be pretty rubbish. I think the tack was about $35 and the switches were just a couple of bucks at J-Car. In fact, I had 2 of them anyway. Dead easy to wire up, but there'll be a lot of wires there. I haven't done it yet because I've got to take it in to work, and I've got to make a box. I'll do it in Vic Ash, and I'll just put a groove in so it's encased all the way around, and then it's accessible from behind. So some people get their jollies out of walking around their nice shiny car with a microfiber cloth. I get my jollies out of doing this stuff because I love it. Anyway, Plymouth didn't work out the way we wanted, but I don't think it matters much. You know, 5-litre engine, so it should be able to take up some of the slack. But whatever the case, take good care of yourselves. Enjoy your classic, and I'll see you soon.
you.